Solving systems by graphing. Gentlemen, you with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, today we're going to start talking about systems of equations. And we're going to be talking about systems of equations for the rest of this chapter. A system of equations is just a fancy name for more than one equation at the same time. Okay? And these are linear equations. If I were to graph a linear equation, it would be a line. And that line would be a collection of points where all of those points are solutions to that equation. So I could graph this line by itself and find a whole bunch of points that would be solutions to that equation. Okay, Zach and whoever you're making evil eyes at over here, knock it off and pay attention up here. Okay? So I could graph this. I could find a whole bunch of solutions to this. I could graph this and find a whole bunch of solutions to that. The solution to the system is the one point that they both have in common.
0, 0.
Not when I graph these two lines.
Oh.
Okay? What is that going to look like on a graph when two lines have one point in common?
Perpendicular.
Okay, not necessarily perpendicular, but they intersect. Perpendicular means they cross at a right angle. These are going to be crossing all different ways, but it's the point that they intersect at, okay, is the solution to the system. And so that's what we're focusing on today, is finding the solution or the one point that both of these lines have in common. Okay? So if I wanted to graph y equals 3x minus 5. Jotea, are you okay? Do you need to go get a drink?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. How do I graph y equals 3x minus 5? Colvin, go ahead.
Down 5.
Down 5. That's where I'm going to start.
Up 3.
Hold on. So we're starting at negative 5. And then my slope is 3 over 1, which tells me to go
Up 3.
up 3
Over 1.
over 1. Okay. It is important when you're doing these with graphing that your lines are straight. Don't worry about it so much for your notes, but when you do your assignment, if you want to use a ruler or something, I do have those out on the table. Okay, so there's my first line. My second one, y equals x minus 3. Where am I starting that graph? Negative 3. And what's my slope on that one?
Oh, man.
Sure.
I'm going the wrong direction.
Okay, just draw an arrow. It's your notes. What's my slope there in front of the x?
It's vertical.
Nope, it's not.
Well, it's one.
What number is in front of the x?
0.
1. So that's really a 1 over 1. So from here I'm going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1.
Oh, they cross.
They do.
Oh, geez.
Okay, guys, tone it down today. My gosh. Okay, and so this point right here, is what's called the solution to the system, because it's the point that they have in common. And then we just have to give the coordinates of that point. So the coordinates of that point are 1, negative 2. Jotea?
I missed this part. So you just graph the equation?
Yep, I just graphed the first line and the second line. Okay? Now, if you need... if you want to check, because maybe your graph is drawn badly, hush guys. Maybe your graph is drawn badly. If you want to check and see if your solution is correct, here's how you can do it. And there are some on your homework where you're required to check. So I could take this negative 2 and plug it in for y, and this 1 and plug it in for x. That would look like this. Negative 2 equals 3 times 1 minus 5. Okay? Well, what does 3 times 1 minus 5 equal?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. So did this work out correctly?
Yeah.
Yes. So I would say, yep, that one works. But to be a solution, it has to work in both. Okay? So now I'm going to plug it into the second one. I'm going to say negative 2 equals 1x, which is just 1 minus 3. What's 1 minus 3? Negative 2. So did this one work out correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how I check to see if they're correct. again, there are some on your homework that say, check your answers to make sure they're right. If it says in the directions to check your answers, I am requiring you to show this. Show me that you plugged it in and checked it. Isaac?
This might be a bad time over because we just got really dull.
Okay, do it quickly. Quickly.
Get up and wander.
Okay. All right, number 2. How do I graph x equals 3?
2, 3.
Okay. And what kind of line is this one going to be?
Vertical.
This one will be a vertical line at 3. Yep. Well, hopefully a straighter line than mine. Okay. Shh. Guys, come on. 3 examples today. Y equals negative 2x plus 2. How do I do that one? Somebody besides Colvin? Dominic, go ahead. Start at 2 and go.
Down 2 over 1.
Good. That's negative 2 over 1. So down 2 over 1.
Good job, Dominic.
Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Okay. And there's your line there. Oh, again, I should be using a ruler too, clearly. Okay. The place they cross, I'm sorry this got so messy, but should be right here.
So you go down
And
2
so the
over 1
coordinates there are, yeah, you're going down 2 over 1.
instead of over 1.
3, negative 4. Okay. 3, negative 4 on that one. Good? Okay. The third one, I'm going to have you change that second equation because the equation the way it's written doesn't work out very well. So change this second equation in your notes to this, 2x plus 4y equals negative 24. And pretend I don't have the answer written on the corner of the paper. Okay, so we're going to graph these 2 lines. How would you graph that first equation? 2x plus y equals 0. Somebody else tell me. Not that I don't appreciate your input. D, go for it. Okay. If I find the y-intercept, yep, I'm going to plug 0 in for x, and I'm going to find that the y-intercept is 0. Okay? But this isn't in slope-intercept form, so I don't have my slope right now.
2 over 1.
Okay, almost.
2 over 1.
Negative 2 over 1. If you're going to do the slope, this is in standard form, so the slope is negative a over b. Remember that? So then your a is 2 and your b is 1, so it would be negative 2 over 1. If your slope is negative 2 over 1, where does that tell you to go from here?
Down 2 over 1.
Down 2 over
To
1.
the right. Yeah.
Down 2 over 1.
To the right.
Thank you. Thank you, 1 to the right. Down 2, 1 to the right. I'm going to do a couple this way too, just to help my terrible line drawing skills. Okay? So that was one way you could have gone about graphing that line. You also could have solved for y. You could have moved the 2x to the other side, and then it would have been in slope-intercept form. And your y-intercept would be 0, and your slope would be negative 2 over 1. Okay? How do you want to go about graphing the second line? A couple different ways you could do this one. Colvin, go ahead.
You do 2 over 4, and that's the 2 negative. No, it's negative 1/2.
So your slope is negative a over b, so negative 2 over 4.
Yeah.
Okay, which is the same as negative 1/2.
And then the y is negative 24.
Nope.
I mean the y-intercept is negative 24.
Nope.
Oh, it's 6.
Good.
Yeah.
If I wanted the y-intercept, I would plug a 0 in for x, and I would end up with 4y equals negative 24. And then divide by the 4, so my y-intercept is negative 6. So I'm going to start at negative 6. And then the slope we found was negative 1/2. So I'm going to go, what? Down 1 over 2.
To the right.
To the right, thank you. You're right, I should be saying that. There's my line.
So you're telling me I've been doing this wrong.
No, this
What
is
have-
a new lesson.
What have you been doing?
Oh, this ain't part of last?
Well,
What are you doing?
we haven't
Down
done
to the
this.
left.
Yeah, I know, but that quiz, I'm pretty sure.
We have graphed lines before, but we've never graphed both at the same time. But, Zach, if you do think you've been graphing lines wrong, you'll definitely want to figure that out before you take that test you owe me from last week. That wasn't, no. That wasn't a burn. That was just a helpful suggestion.
I get everything on the test. It was just the quiz
Clearly
yesterday.
not a burn.
Okay, that was not a burn, not in any way. 4 over. What's my solution?
4 negative 8. Right there.
Positive 4. Nope, 4 to the right.
4 to negative 8. It's on the bottom right corner of the paper.
It is.
Oh, I'm another way.
Yeah, it's positive 4, positive 4, and then down 8. So 4, negative 8 is your solution.
Both of my lines
Oh, so you didn't make your slopes negative. Guys, if your slope, this is an off day with this group, man. If your slope is negative 2 over 1, you have to go down 2 and 1 over to the right. Okay, if your slope is negative 1/2, you have to go down 1 and over 2 to the right. Okay? Can you handle that today? Okay. On the back of this sheet, there are directions. Shh, listen up. On the back of this sheet, there are directions for doing this on your graphing calculator. Now, I'm not busting out my calculators today. If you have your own calculator and you want to try to work your way through that, you're welcome to do that. If you want some help with that, I'm happy to help you, but I'm not going to teach it as a lesson to the whole class because the majority of us don't have calculators. Okay? If you don't have a calculator, you're just doing this by hand. Okay?